Hi, my name's Mark Walker and I'm the editorial director at the Fintech Times, and we're here at Abu Dhabi Finance Week. First of all, I'm going to ask my interviewee to introduce herself to you, the audience.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Linda Fitz-Alan. I'm the CEO and Registrar of ADGM Courts.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us here today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
So let's start off with a little bit about sort of the court systems and what the UAE and Abu Dhabi are doing in regard to making this a global centre for jurisdiction.
The main thing that Abu Dhabi and the UAE have done to make this an extraordinary investor-centric jurisdiction is direct application of English common law. It's the language of international commerce. So standing here on ADGM, direct application, English common law, what that brings with it is reliability, transparency, consistency, and really a very, very prominent demonstration of the rule of law and its sacrosanct nature in order to give investors confidence that in this jurisdiction they're safe, that their disputes can be resolved as quickly, easily, and as transparently as possible.
Wonderful. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But first of all, talking about different jurisdictions, I'm quite intrigued by your background. Australia, New York and Abu Dhabi. Give me a little bit of a flavour of what you've done previously to this.
Thank you. So Australian trained lawyer, Sydney trained lawyer, law firms. I am by background a litigator, but mostly in directors and officers, systemic crises. And then I went to New York, the family for 6 years in incredible times, 2002 to 2009. And I went in-house for an insurance company located in New York. Incredible times. I saw lots of interesting disputes, part of a small team for very volatile disputes. So that, for me, that was a turning point between law firms and being in-house, which is where you deal with strategy. Returned to Australia, had a young family that had then grown up, so back and for grandparents. And then spent a couple of years at the law firm, realized I needed that strategic part to come back into my professional life. So I was recruited to head up the New South Wales Supreme Court. I did that for almost 5 years, and then I was approached by Abu Dhabi to see if I would set up the English common law courts in this international financial centre. And Mark, what a privilege. Extraordinary.
I can imagine, yeah. And I guess that the background is really important because, as you say, working in-house, working in a practice, and then stepping into the actual court system here to help modernise and transform it. I guess you've brought a lot of your experience to that role. So when you kind of came into the role, what was it that you felt like you needed to do to transform the judicial system here?
Completely digitise it. That was the first and foremost strategic vision element, if you like, that I discussed with our former chairman. We sit strategically between East and West. We have to attract investors into Abu Dhabi. The only way you can do that is to connect them to Abu Dhabi. If need to come on planes and long trips, we'll never achieve it. But if you digitize justice, and therefore you place justice in sync with business, with our registration authority and our very, very innovative financial services regulatory authority, we sit as part of an ecosystem that delivers what investors need. So for me, it was the first 5 on the list was digitisation, the whole thing, that was it. And that's what we've done. And, it's had huge benefits for us, including through COVID. So most other jurisdictions had to change the way that they did business. We didn't. We were already digital. Video conferencing, but our electronic platform is where parties can sit in Singapore, Sydney, London, wherever, and they literally are on that platform. They'll transact business through that platform. We never see a human being in the court other than if it's a lengthy trial and they come in for it. So that has been our DNA. And we are voracious about AI now, about the next steps that we can make in judicial services that make them even more accessible.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit specifically about sort of the role that fintech and technology has taken in these. I guess the digitalisation was the first step on a wide area, but specifically for that sort of new breed of financial services tech combo company.
Yeah.
What do you see as them saying is the major advantage of having the jurisdiction based here?
I think it's its accessibility through digitisation, but I also think is they feel comfortable with talking to the leaders in ADGM about tech and about digitisation, because it doesn't fall on ears that aren't at the same level. We may not be sort of uber, particularly for me, uber tech and detailed in it, but once they speak to me about their business and what they're doing, what they worry about with risk, I explain to them first and foremost, you transact with us digitally, but also you look at the way our procedures are designed, and we are very flexible with judges from leading common law jurisdictions who understand where the world has gone with digitisation. We are constantly educating our judges with what is going on in the world and looking at what that is. So I think they come in and they feel there's a sense of familiarity with what they do, not a sense of unease, and not a sense of there are guardrails. We clearly need to make sure that this is a jurisdiction of trust, but they can experiment, they have the room to move, but they know that they have us who know what their business is about, who know how they tick, who know what they're worried about. And so I think that's why people are, the tech people, the entrepreneurs are attracted to here, because they're amongst flexible friends, and trusting friends. So
I think that's much more important as things are moving into more digital assets.
Yeah.
You see, we're going to be hearing a lot over this week from people like Coinbase, Circle.
Yeah.
I think what they're looking for is no rules, because actually what fintechs, a lot of people think that, fintechs don't want rules, but actually they do want rules, but they want transparent rules. They know how to abide by it.
Yeah.
So do you think that is something that has consciously been set up here, or do you think it's just happened naturally?
No, 100%, Mark. Right from the start, it was conscious that there were always to be guardrails, but there was always to be a sense of consultation with that industry, to test their temperature on how they felt, where they were on the spectrum. But I totally agree with you. They always said to us, the common misperception is that they don't want regulatory framework around them. They do. So we heard that from the very start. And so it has been a deliberate, iterative process, and continues to be that, because it changes all the time. So we didn't stumble upon it as, this is the next best thing. We could tell years and years away. We're 10 years old now. And it wasn't so long after we started that, all of this was mingling around. So no, and we don't stop. We don't stop in thinking about how we can enhance it.
And just thinking a little bit about the wider Middle East, the GCC sort of specifically, what role do you feel that the legal system here in the UAE has to play in the wider expansion of financial services across the region?
Leadership by what I've just said is extraordinary flexible regulatory frameworks, transparency, an embrace and a championing of the rule of law. And I think that's what the UAE does well. I think it doesn't just lead by words and strategic visions that have words in it. Every day, that is what we do. And that's what we're driven to do by the leadership. Because when I usually meet the organizations that come in wanting to establish an ADGM and talk to them about what's really important to them. And they talk about how they say to me, it's nice to meet you now, but we really don't want to meet you again because we know we have a dispute. But what they love about here is this open door, accessibility to leadership, to talk about what they want to do. So I think that is the role that the UAE plays in the GCC, is ambition and determination, not after people have thought about it, but predicting where industry is going. Yeah. Really important.
Well, that's really interesting. And I found, on my experience of traveling quite a bit around the world, places like the UK and Europe you tend to shy away from lawyers and solicitors and judges
Yeah.
until you feel like you need to sort of defend yourself in some way. But then in the US, it's almost the other way, is that the first person that you kind of contract is a legal advisor.
Yeah.
Where do you see sort of the Middle East in that? Are they nicely in the middle?
Nicely in the middle, I think. I mean, that's an easy answer. It's a very lawyer answer, isn't it? But it is nicely in the middle. But I see them more towards the US side than Europe and the UK. You know, we do. I mean, our judges, you know, aren't accessible in what you would think that, but the court system is the consultation that we do, our, you know, what we do to intersect with the legal profession and go out and find the leaders, not necessarily of lawyers who are in ADGM, but elsewhere, who are experts to talk to about, look, we've noticed this. We have a very creative financial services regulatory authority. Like, where can we pick around the world that has some really interesting ways of dealing with things, and then create them to our own? So I think, I think we're probably more on the US side, and it's worked. You know, it's delivered a sense of, it's almost made us so compelling to be here because of that, is that we want to listen to people about what they see as important in their industry.
Fantastic. And then maybe final question, because I'm sure you're busy and have things to do. If I was a fintech, what would your advice be if I'm thinking about coming to Abu Dhabi and the UAE from a legal perspective? What would their first step be?
I think their first step would be to, I think, have their contracts looked over by lawyers, to really look at the benefits that they draw, the benefits of the rule of law in the UAE. So I think that is what they need to have a look at. And they need to satisfy themselves, which I think there's a plethora of information about ADGM, but we're always contactable, is what are those miles, not necessarily miles, what are those touch points that mean a lot to them, and are we delivering in them? And if we're not, talk to us about that. So, but I do think they need to, from their own contractual perspective, I think they need to make sure that what they have is no such thing as no such thing for that. That's why there are cases around the world. But I do think they need to ensure that they have that protection. But then they need to work out, you know, is this adaptable for them? Is this somewhere that they want to be, that they can flex with what the future holds for them? So
fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us at the FinTech Times.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.